Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We are live tonight. Coming up a little bit later, we're going to talk about College Game Day coming to town for a big Pitt Notre Dame game. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is, of course, the Steelers. Up and down. Aaron and Rogers talked about a roller coaster ride, and that's exactly what it is. We're down after this one. 25-10, Chargers beat the Steelers. Here to talk about it is our panel tonight. We have with us Will Graves from the Associated Press, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, and Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. So I want to get right into this. So many things to go to. Andrew, I'm going to start with Aaron Rodgers. He looked his age. He looked actually older than his age in this game. Break down what you saw from him today and why it took the Steelers almost the entire game to get a third down conversion.
I mean, it was honestly the worst quarterback play I've seen maybe ever from a Steelers quarterback. I mean, we've seen.
Oh,
well, hold on.
Ever.
We saw Duck Hodges go to LA and score 24 points. They scored really 3 points this game, other than a very late cosmetic touchdown to make it look at least not even defensible, just to make it look aesthetically a little bit better. I mean, look at the stats that they showed a graphic late in the game by passer rating and some other things. It was the worst game he's ever had. To me, it was reminiscent of how we saw Russell Wilson age in dog years at the end of last year. And I think Steelers fans should be concerned moving forward. This is 41. He has not played well against good teams. I mean, let's just be honest about that, Mike. That's a continuation from last year. All his good stats last year were against bad teams.
Well, he played fairly well last week.
I disagree with that.
Well, he wasn't elite, but he was fine.
He was good?
I thought he was fine. I mean, he certainly
didn't think he was good after the game. He said as much.
I thought he played winning football, and I know there wasn't as much required in that circumstance, but there wasn't that much required to at least keep this game competitive early. He missed some easy passes, some obvious passes. I went in the realm of things. I don't think that Russ ever played as badly last year as Aaron did today. I think you have to look at, like, if you're going to do this, like a lot of people were saying on Twitter that it was Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett never played this bad. This was a really terrible performance by a quarterback who has been very good to okay to very good for this entire year. They had scored at least 23 points in 5 consecutive games. Today, they would have to still be out there way past midnight to get to 20.
I mean, if you go back to the halftime of the Packer game, since then they've been pretty ordinary. And even in the first half of the Packer game, they kicked long field goals instead of touchdowns. So I would say the trend is troubling. But I mean, guys, to me, this just looks like a different path to the same destination. Different quarterback. You know, there's hope, and then there's not hope. Last week, Mike, yeah, he was serviceable, but even he said, when we get 6 turnovers, we need to score more than we did, right? So they were advantageous. This week, no turnovers, 10 points. I mean, this is sort of they're an average team.
Well,
they're an average team, and he is an average quarterback.
If they got to the same destination at this point, it wouldn't be a bad year. I mean, considering how up and down they've been, how much trouble they've had on either side of the ball, depending on the weekend. I would say that if you got to 10-7, you've done pretty well. I'm not sure whether they absolutely are going to do that.
But Rodgers looks a little, at this point, squeamish when he's in there. I mean, you could tell he's looking over his shoulder. He feels pressure.
The safety was troubling because it was almost,
and
for a guy that I imagine I didn't look it up, but I imagine that can't have happened more than 3 times in his career. Right. He's elite at sort of knowing when to get rid of the ball, knowing to move around, and he was like, oh hell, there's Khalil Mack there. Oops.
Right. And when he bails on a play, he bails on a play. There were a couple of times he could have maybe tried to extend. He throws the ball on the ground as if to say, all right, don't do anything. I'm done.
I mean, people don't want to have this conversation right now because they're still technically in first place and, the sky isn't completely falling. But if it continues to trend in this direction, I think you've got to ask the hard questions to them, like, why was it such an easy decision to go with him rather than Sam Darnold, for example? Why was that a non-starter for them?
Well, there are a lot of quarterbacks that could have.
Yeah, I know you've liked Daniel Jones. He's making $14 million this year. That's $1 million more than a 41-year-old quarterback. Even if he plays well, he's probably done at the end of the year. And not just Justin Fields, who obviously has been bad, even though they won again today. There were other options available to them. And if we get to this destination Will's talking about, where you're hitting your head on the ceiling again, you should ask about other quarterbacks that could have gotten them through.
But those other quarterbacks, though, have, if they hit, then they got to pay him, right? The plan all along is for them to get a young quarterback.
Yeah,
that is the plan.
That plan is in jeopardy.
Yeah, how's that plan looking right now, Will?
Well, it actually looks pretty good, to be honest with you.
Does it?
To get
I don't
to
know
what?
about that.
I'm talking about next year. What are you guys talking about? You're talking about this
I'm talking
what they're
about next year.
I think what they're saying is that the field of quarterbacks that is out there is
I
not
asked
elite.
Omar this the other day, and his response was, some guys have trended down, but other guys that we maybe weren't on our radar have trended up.
Yeah,
so,
but
like,
there's
let's not make any.
teams-
Let's not make
There's
any.
about 6
But
teams
there's
that need
teams that
quarterbacks
are
to
going to be
drafted
ahead of you in the
right.
draft order.
And that's one of the reasons they did not make a trade for a receiver the other day, because they're trying to keep that third round pick. They didn't want to give up anything more than a fourth round pick.
Yes, but they have to find a team to jump over, and those teams need quarterbacks too, is the problem. And a lot of them have 2 first-round picks, and you have 1, right? I mean, Jets, Browns, Saints, these teams are all going to need quarterbacks.
Let's talk about also part of this is play calling too, Mike. We watched this game upstairs, and I know you were dissatisfied. I think all of us were with some of the play calls. What was it about? They seemed to be hesitant to get things going. It was a lot of dink and dunk stuff again. Rodgers, when he did have people, he missed some and he overthrew some.
Well, I thought they were too insistent about the running game. That seems to be a thing with not only with the franchise itself, but also the fan base, that if you give up on the running game too early, everybody gets upset. There was a 2nd and 5 play in the red zone where they should have put the ball in the air, and instead they tried to pound it again. Actually, it wasn't in the red zone; it was preceding the field goal, and they tried to pound it again, and they just seem to always want to prove that they can move the ball on the ground. And you brought Aaron Rodgers in for a reason, because he has the ability to process at a level very few ever have. And they don't always use it. They don't often use it. They often mistrust their offensive line, and maybe it's mistrustful, but if you don't believe in your offensive line in the passing game, then why would you believe in it in the running game?
Well, I mean, I think, like, not having Isaac Seumalo tonight hurt, because that jumbo package had been working,
yes.
right? It had been working. But we had to move the parts around tonight. Pete obviously wasn't up to the task as sort of that extra guy. So, I just think that, to me, it was more like, they did what they've always done. They just weren't efficient at it. Like, there wasn't anything different about the game plan. It's just that the quarterback play was not even to the average standard that it had been the last few weeks.
Before the missed field goal, he threw the pass to Jonnu. It was 3rd and long, but he threw the pass to Jonnu. He was wide open.
And not a great pass. If he hits him in stride, it's a touchdown.
It was one of the many problems he had, but he had him that wide open, and then on 3rd down, they just decided they're not going to be able to get anybody open on 3rd and long. 2nd and long, you can get him open, but 3rd and long, no chance.
So
even the 4th down and goal, or 4th down when they were looking for a first down. That was one he designed.
I mean, we really should not give. I don't think Will meant to do this, but you can't give them the Seumalo excuse tonight. The other team didn't have 2 $100 million offensive tackle and another guy who's probably someday
well,
going to be
and their
$100
quarterback did get sacked 5 times. And
he kept getting up and making plays.
Exactly,
Will.
right,
I mean,
right. But
you're allowed to do
we're talking
that.
about the quarterback here. I mean, I think that, it's okay for them, for a guy that's been there all year, to not be there. And then the operation not running smoothly. And Jaylen Warren's numbers weren't terrible.
I thought
the quarterback was not great. The problem was the quarterbacking was not great.
All right, we got to take a break. When I come back, I want to talk about and I was one of many people who thought they should have made a trade for a receiver. Apparently they were close to one, but they didn't get it done, whether it was them or the other teams they were talking to, whatever the case may be. But they still need help there, and I think that was pretty obvious tonight as well. And we'll talk about the defense. If they don't get turnovers, they don't make a lot of stops in critical times. And we saw that again today as the team they played against rushed for over 100 yards. We'll be back with more right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We're back with more #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, talking about the Steelers after their 25-10 loss to the Chargers, puts them at 5-4, 1 game ahead of the on-charging Ravens, who won today. But Will, I want to ask you about the trade deadline. It came and went. I think a lot of people felt they probably should have made it. Reports were they were close to doing something, but they didn't get it done. Was that a mistake looking back now?
Well, no. I mean, because I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. Right? I don't. I think all we're doing is we're sort of just spinning our wheels here. Tonight was evidence of that. I don't know if they had Jacoby Myers in this game, if that's going to make Aaron Rodgers play better than he did. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, he wouldn't have it. I don't think he's had 1 drop in 2 years. I don't think he has the ball basically pitched to Dante Jackson for an interception, like Calvin Austin.
Calvin Austin only had 1 drop this year,
to me,
too.
They've been very adamant about holding on to their draft capital to planning for next year's draft. They didn't want to part with a 3rd rounder. That's the plan. If they get Jacoby Myers, I mean, do you think this team's going, 12-5 and winning the division and get they're not.
Well, then why trade for Kyle Duggar then?
Because all their safeties suck
I'm just saying,
or hurt. There's a difference.
But what's the point of giving up any draft picks if you're saying
a sixth rounder is not a big deal, Pony? Like it's not.
Hold on a second.
Myers
It sounds
was
like a sixth-round pick was the difference between a deal getting made and not getting
No,
made.
it was a third-round pick and a
versus
fourth-round pick.
According to who?
According to Omar Khan.
Okay.
If that's
He's on
okay.
record. He's on record now.
He is now. Sorry, Omar.
Okay.
That's right.
Wait, that's what he told you.
That's what I heard. We'll just say it like
Okay.
that. We'll just say
wow,
that's what I heard.
That's interesting.
Well, it was.
I didn't think the GM talked in season, so now I'm getting new information.
Jacksonville got him for a 4th and a 6th.
Yeah.
4th
okay.
and a 6th.
So
Even
if
if
the
you made it
Steelers had offered a 4th and a 6th, how do you know that they would have said, okay, we'll take your 4th and a 6th?
How about
I
a
don't know
4th and a
Because then
5th?
you're betting on like which team's going to finish worse, basically.
But according to Will, it was stupid to even go after him in the first place.
No, I didn't say that.
What's Jacoby Myers going to do to your
If they would
team?
have gotten a 4th and a 6th, then fine. But if their reasoning for not parting with a 3rd or higher is sound.
He was only going to play, what, 8
Why
games,
not
9 games?
Okay.
I mean, that's to me, if Jacoby Myers had a year left on his deal and they didn't make the deal, it would have been a poor decision. But I just, even after tonight, I can't look at it and say, I mean, I know Austin made a terrible play there, but I can't look at it and say that giving up a 3rd round
Do you
pick.
understand how this comes across, though, as having 1 foot in today and 1 foot in tomorrow? Who are you? You're playing a 41-year-old quarterback.
The
are you
Steelers
trying to
want
win
to
now,
try
or are you
to
not
win.
trying to win
They had
now?
a
They're trying to
division
not
lead.
suck now, is what they're trying to do.
Great. That's an awesome strategy. Let's be right smack dab in the middle, man.
How long have you been here, bro? This is where they've
is that
been for
good?
literally
Do you think
6
that's
or 7
smart?
years.
You
What
think
would it, should we go back and play some old some stuff from like the spring when we were talking about what they should do at quarterback and see where Pony was at and see where I was at? He wanted Daniel Jones, right?
I wanted somebody that wasn't 41 years old. Yeah.
I mean, like they weren't going to find somebody that was going to be their next quarterback for the next 10 years last spring.
But you never know. Darnold could have been that guy too. Now,
I mean,
A lot
a
of other teams had chances to get Sam Darnold and didn't either. So let's not just pretend it was the Steelers.
One of them
looked
was
at
Minnesota.
Darnold.
To your point, they could have.
They
kept him,
and most of the league looked at Darnold as a 1-year hit, 1-year wonder.
agreed.
And most of the league looked at Jones as a 1-year wonder who was shot and who was broken. And nobody was right. The only teams that turned out to be right, well, the only team that really turned out to be right was Seattle because the Colts lucked into Jones. I mean, they took him as a competition.
He wasn't even the starter coming into it.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
thought he would
so
be a backup.
they're the only ones that were really right in all this.
I mean, this team is still spinning its wheels. Like my expectation for the season wasn't any different than it was.
Yeah, but theirs. The thing is, their expectation. They're in
What were their
first place.
choices? What were their choices? What were
Make
the
a deal.
choices?
Make a deal. They could have made a deal.
They were playing for 2026 and beyond. I mean, this is a literally throw stuff against the wall season.
So let me ask you this:
and see what
if it's a
sticks.
3rd and a 4th, then it's probably somebody who has years left on a contract. I would imagine, right? It's not just a Jacoby Myers 1 year, half a year, and you're done. If you're trading a 3rd and a 4th,
this team is not one receiver away from being in the AFC Championship.
But if there's a receiver who's a good one who still has years left on a contract,
was that
the name
receiver wasn't
Jalen
out
Waddle
there?
quite
That
a bit.
receiver wasn't out there.
Well, I'm just saying. All right. I want to talk about defense. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about defense. And also, who's now favored? You know, the favorite to win this division all along has been the Ravens, even when they were 1-5. Maybe the odds makers are right about that. We'll talk about it and look into the next several games. Coming up next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, let's talk defense. The Steeler defense, we've talked about them when they make turnovers. They're good. When they don't, they give up a lot of yards. So, Mike DeCourcy, your take on what you saw defensively tonight. And when they don't make a turnover, don't they have to produce 3 and outs more than we saw tonight?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. But it wasn't a bad performance. I think that based on what we've seen from this team this year, I think if the offense had been adequate, that they would have been in the game. The defense was not horrendous. And
Over 120 yards rushing they allowed.
I realize that. And like I said, it needs to be better. There's no question.
3rd string running back.
Yeah, but I mean, you could look at somebody and say that Johnson for the Steelers is a 3rd string running back, and he could go out and go for 120 yards if he ever got a whole game. They just don't have anybody else to put in there. I mean, you don't know. I mean, I look at it as adequate, and there's been a lot of inadequacy in this defense most of this season. So when you get adequate, that's an upgrade, but you don't notice it because you don't get the turnovers. I mean, they had 5 sacks. They got off the field a lot of times on 3rd down by putting a guy down, when a lot of times in this season they've gotten those early sacks, 1st and 2nd down, and then given up long 3rd down conversions. That didn't happen as much tonight.
Yeah, but the stop they needed was the one right before the half, and they didn't get it.
Yeah, I agree.
So to me, that was where the failing was. And maybe it's not fair to sort of put all that on them on a night when the offense is so bad. But I mean, even if they hold them to a field goal in that situation, I think the game maybe ends up a little bit differently. So yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was fine, but for this team to be successful, one side needs to be better than fine, because the other side usually is not.
Right.
I mean, you paid that unit $160 million. To me, it's not a silver lining or moral victory unit. It's supposed to be in the conversation for the best in the NFL every time it takes the field. And it was not bad. Like, if we're just applying the standard of what we would ask of all 32 defenses, it was probably not one of the worst 16 performances in the NFL this weekend or whatever, but it still wasn't good.
Yeah.
I mean, their corners, again, Eccles got burnt a ton.
Oh, yeah.
Porter and Slay were both nicked up in this game, but I still look at that area of their team as a major, major weakness.
All right, let's talk about the division now, because all along, odds makers have had the Ravens as the team to beat, or likely the division winner, even when they were 1-5, which was interesting, Mike. So where is it now? They're a game ahead of the Ravens. They have 2 head-to-heads later. They have some really tough games coming up. Do you think the Steelers are in a position still to win this division?
Well, it's going to come down to the head-to-heads and what they do in those games. I mean, the Ravens haven't been great. They weren't great today. They've played winning football over the last several weeks. Their schedule has been abysmal, but they also had an extraordinarily front-loaded schedule. In some ways, they had good timing because Lamar's injury came in games they might have lost anyway. If it had come in games like this, they might have lost those games and then lost to, say, the Vikings today or to the Browns at some point or something like that. So their timing, if Lamar was going to get hurt, it was actually kind of good. It's really, when the odds makers are talking about this, it's all about the schedule. Their schedule's much weaker going forward than the Steelers has been.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas makes money. They don't build those casinos out of nothing, Pomp. I mean, there's a reason those guys. So, I mean, I think to Mike making a great point there about the injury timing for Lamar was kind of fortuitous in a weird way for them. And look, I watched the Vikings game today. They weren't great, but the Vikings were really not great. That being said, I think once Lamar, as he kind of gets back to maybe full health, it's going to be hard to say that the Steelers are going to somehow outscore them twice, which is probably what they're going to have to do, because some of the other games, Detroit looks tough.
Buffalo, although Buffalo got shredded today, but even the Bengals now. I'm not going to count that one the way things have gone with the Bengals, Pony. So what's your take?
Baltimore's defense is a lot better. I mean, it couldn't have gotten any worse, but look at the way it's played now for the last month. I mean, they beat Chicago without Lamar Jackson, with Huntley in there. That might end up being the victory that this whole thing hinges on, and it'll be maybe the difference between them winning and losing the division when it's all said and done. But I'm just impressed how well their defense has played over the last 4 or 5 games. Even when Lamar was out, they held the Rams to 17 points. And now looking back on it, that's a really good defensive performance against that team.
Next up for the Steelers is the Bengals. When we come back, though, we're going to talk about College Game Day coming to Pittsburgh. It's going to be Pitt and Notre Dame. 3 very big games coming up. How will Pitt fare in those games? We'll discuss when we come back right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Hey, if you're in the market for a new vehicle, don't settle for anything less than #1 Cochran Kia's clearly better car buying experience. You can enjoy exclusive clear-cut pricing where you get the most competitive offer, and you get it up front. Take advantage of exceptional lease rates and finance rates and choose from a lineup of hundreds of new models. Experience clearly better car buying. #1 Cochran Kia. You can do it in-store. You can do it online, cochrankia.com. All right, start with you, Will, about Pitt. They have College Game Day. It's always a big thing. It was here last for the Backyard Brawl in 2022. It's back. Pitt, Notre Dame, big game. They have 3 left. Can they win them all? Should they?
No, they can't win them all.
Okay.
They could maybe win the last 2, which are the ones that they probably care about.
Yeah, and that Notre Dame game is almost like an exhibition for the Panthers at this point. It's huge for Notre Dame to keep them in the playoff race, but if the Panthers win the last 2, they'll never even remember Notre Dame came to town.
Unless they don't get the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of machinations, but I still feel like if they get those 2, they're going to get it.
Because I think even if they win all 3,
ACC championship game? Okay.
No.
To me, I think there's a case for them to be in at large if they win all 3 and don't get in the ACC championship game.
I would agree with that. Look, Notre Dame's last 2 games have not impressed me. I mean, they went to Boston College, they scored 25 points. They kept Boston College in the game the whole time. And then Saturday, they played a Navy team without its quarterback. And they pulled away late, but still, I give them a shot. Not a big one, but the Pitt team we've seen score over 30 points per game with Heinzel is not going to just get blown out, I don't think.
No, I don't think either. Point spread is what, 12? It's something like 12 and a half. It's a big line for Notre Dame. So that game on Saturday, it's a noon start. And when we come back, we'll give you some final thoughts about what we think about the Bengals coming to town next week. That's next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Despite what you saw tonight, the Steelers are favored to beat the Bengals. Will they do it? Cincinnati had a bye week, Andrew.
Yeah, they will. I don't see Joe Flacco beating them twice. I think the game being here will make a big difference. Not a short week. I think they'll get it done.
I think they win. I can't imagine them losing to the Bengals twice. But if they do, then they'll be headed toward the high draft pick land that so many in this Steeler fan base have wanted for so long.
Wanda Keene would hate it if I said the Steelers were going to lose to the Bengals twice. I don't want to piss Wanda off. Steelers win. They get some turnovers this time against Flacco.
That's going to be interesting. It is a game.
You want to pick the Bengals, I can tell.
It scares me that they had a week off and Joe Flacco and these receivers had so much success against them. I'm just curious if the offense can keep up here in Pittsburgh with what they do if they get some, traction in their wide receiver game. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us. We are live, and we'll do it again next Sunday night, and we'll have a lot to talk about after that game as the Steelers try to get back on track, taking on the Bengals. If they win, they'll get to 6-4. It's a much-needed game for them. We'll be back next week right here. Same time, same channel. Thanks for joining us, and have a good week.